Well, hello guys, this is JP, and today we're going to take a quick look at two Bluetooth headphones from Kiwi Ears. On the left, we got the Kiwi Ears Aventus, and on the right, we got the Kiwi Ears Ardor. Let's quickly go through the specs. The Aventus is going to come in a little bit cheaper at $81, whereas the Ardor comes in at $90. Both have Bluetooth 5.4, but are only available with SBC and AAC. Now, both have the same drivers. They're both coaxial 40 millimeters with a 10 millimeter driver, and both come with ANC. Now, the major difference is going to come in at the battery life. The Aventus only has 82 hours of battery on Bluetooth, whereas the Ardor has 140 hours of battery. And additionally, the Aventus has RGB lighting, whereas the Ardor doesn't. Now, let's quickly go through the packaging. Both come with a similar material for the case, but the Aventus does have kind of a bulge to it, whereas the Ardor is flat. Similar size, I think the Aventus case is a little bit smaller, but again, it does have kind of a bulge to it. Let's start off with the packaging for the Ardor first. So the headphones come packaged like this, just lay them flat. Now, this does fold. So it does fold like that, kind of similar to like maybe the Sony or the Bose. But for whatever reason, I don't know why they didn't design the case like this. They made the case quite big, in my opinion. But that's the way it is. Now the Ardor comes with USB-C for charging and also 3.5 millimeter cables for the wired connections. In terms of the ports, you get a USB-C charging port, a dedicated ANC button, the dedicated power button, as well as volume switches. And you got the 3.5 millimeter port right there as well. Now with the Aventus, you get a little bit more accessories. So first, you get a USB-C to USB-A charging cable. You get a 3.5 millimeter cable for wired connection. And the Aventus, they designed it more for the DJs and gamers. So they also designed the cable a little bit more suitable for those users. Now, interestingly, the Aventus also comes with a 3.5 millimeter to USB-C cable for use maybe during gaming on your phone or your computer. Now, the Aventus comes with extra foam pads that you can put inside the ear cups to change the tuning. So what that's gonna do is, the red is the stock, and then the green is with the extra foam pads. It does bring down the bass a little bit to make the overall tuning more balanced. Kind of decreases the upper treble a little bit, so it makes the treble a little bit smoother. I think I prefer the sound with these foam pads a lot better. I think it feels a lot more balanced and more closer to my taste. And how you change those foam pads is really simple. You just twist the ear cups and they just come right off, and you can add the foam pad right here. And you just twist it back on and it's good to go. I don't know why, but like the Ardor, you know, they designed the case to be just you lay them flat, but the Aventus, for whatever reason, they designed it to be folded up. And even folded up, I think they could have gotten rid of this extra space on the bottom and made the case more compact. But that's the way that they designed the cases. Now, like I said, both do fold up. I think I would say both are quite similar sizes folded up. Now let's briefly go over the build quality for both of them. So I've been using them about 3 weeks, and you know, quite similar materials. They're both quite plasticky. They both have the PU fake leathers, but I would say the Aventus, it does feel a little bit sturdier. It does have a wider headband too, but there's a little bit less kind of plasticky sounds with the Aventus. The Ardor, on the other hand, is quite plasticky. It feels quite flimsy. I don't know if you can hear that, but again, it feels kind of plasticky. The hinges feel a little bit weaker. It's a little bit more bendable. So I would say the build quality is better on the Aventus. And also in terms of the general fit and comfort, I would actually say the Aventus is a little bit more comfortable too, just because it has a little bit plushier headband, and also the ear pads are a little bit thicker on the Aventus. And also just the general ear cup shape. You can see the Aventus does have a larger ear cup. It's also more round, so it goes over the ear easier. Whereas the Ardor, it has a bit more of an oval and narrower ear cup shape. The biggest difference I found with this is when wearing glasses, the Aventus is a lot more comfortable. It kind of crimps less on your ears and on your glasses. So I would also say the comfort is better on the Aventus. Now the Aventus and the Ardor has a little bit of a different design to them. Firstly, the Aventus is geared more towards DJs and gamers. The overall design looks a little bit more like the old school DJ headphones from AKG or Sennheiser. And they marketed as, like, they marketed that the cups swivel, and it kind of does, but in actually wearing them, it's not comfortable, and you could never actually wear it with this kind of swivel design. So I think that's pretty useless, but design-wise, it does look like DJ-style headphones. Now, the biggest difference also is that the Aventus comes with the RGB lighting. And I guess that's also geared towards gamers and DJs. But for me, I'm using these headphones mostly for commuting. So in my usage case, the RGB doesn't really matter, and I wouldn't really ever use it while commuting, but it's there for those who want it. Now for the Ardor, doesn't have RGB, but instead the ear cups are backed with this PU leather. I think it feels quite premium. And overall, I do like the design. I think the design feels a little bit more modern, a little bit more sleek. It feels a little bit similar to like the Sony or the Bose style headphones. And it's a little bit lighter too, so I think that does help with the comfort overall. Now, one of my complaints for the Aventus is the buttons. The buttons protrude a little bit more, and they're more plasticky. And when you're touching the buttons, you can like hear it while it's on your head. And one of the also biggest issues has been like if you're wearing a collared shirt and the buttons end up brushing against the collar or the hood of your shirt, you can hear the buttons rattling around. So that's kind of been quite annoying. On the Ardor, the buttons are more flush and they feel sturdier, and you don't hear them playing around with them. So I think that is definitely a plus on the Ardor. Now let's also briefly talk about the ANC. Both have ANC, and for my usage case, they've actually been quite impressive. On commutes, on the bus, on the train, they work great, especially kind of with the low humming and the low background noises. So they've been great for my usage cases, and they don't have any of the weird hissing that sometimes you get on ANC earphones or headphones. So I think definitely they did a good job implementing the ANC. However, I also have a complaint with the Aventus where if you're wearing the Aventus while walking around, first of all, with the ANC on, you can hear the thudding and you can feel the thudding of your footsteps with these. So they're not really great for commuting. And also another big issue has been when it's windy outside. With the ANC on, you can hear kind of the whooshing of the wind through the ANC. So it hasn't been great at blocking that. For whatever weird reason, the Ardor has been a lot better at blocking the wind sound, and also maybe because it's lighter or maybe the design, you don't hear as much of the footstep thudding noise with the ANC on. So I think the Ardor has better ANC, but the Aventus feels a little bit more sturdy, it feels a little bit more better built and durable, and it's also more comfortable. Now, in terms of the battery life, I've been using them on and off for the past 3 weeks. I use them maybe 1 or 2 hours a day, and I haven't charged them ever since. And I've been quite amazed. Right now on my phone, it's still saying they both have 80% battery life. So I don't really know if they go up to 140 hours or not, but so far it's been great. And I think they're excellent if you're traveling. So yeah, battery life seems great so far. Now, in terms of the sound quality, honestly, I really wasn't expecting much for Bluetooth headphones for under $100. but I was quite amazed. I think both sound really excellent, considering the fact, again, they're under $100. They're both Bluetooth. And so far, I think we haven't really seen that many great Bluetooth headphones come out from the Chinese market, but these have really been excellent. I think the overall sound quality, they're as good as wired headphones for around that price range. So I think this is a great start for both of them. I really don't have much complaints about the overall sound quality. Now let's compare the sound between the two. This is their frequency graphs with the Ardor in blue and the Aventus in red. And you can see a little bit similar style, but the Ardor is going to be a lot more V-shaped. You get a little bit more sub-bass, and then it quickly slopes up and scoops kind of the mids as it goes directly into the treble. And you can see compared to the Aventus, it does also have a little bit more treble output. Aventus, I think it's a little bit more balanced. It does have a little bit more of a V shape towards the low end, but the mid range is relatively flat from 3 to 1 kilohertz, 300 to 1 kilohertz. And the treble is also a little bit more tamed. I think it's a little bit more comfortable to listen to. Now, comparing the actual sound between these two, I would say the Ardor does have a lot more punchier sub bass, whereas the Aventus focuses a little bit more on the mid bass region. And because of that, the Aventus, even though the graph looks a little bit more tonally balanced, the Aventus feels like it does have a little bit more mid bass bloat, where the kick drums and the bass guitar is going to mix a little bit more with the vocals in the lower registers. The Aventus also does have a little bit of a brilliance at around 6 kilohertz. It's not uncomfortable, but you do notice it with certain cymbals and with the presence in vocals. The Ardor, on the other hand, it has a harder bass, but because of the scoop mids, you do lose out on some of the fundamental frequencies in the male and female vocals, and because of that, the vocals also feel leaner overall. I think because the Ardor also has a bit more upper treble, it does add a little bit more air to the overall sound, and it makes the overall sound feel a little bit more crisper, a little bit more clear. And while I would say the resolution between the two of them are quite similar, I think that a little bit more upper air does make the resolution seem a little bit better on the Ardor. Again, they're quite similar though. What's interesting is that the Aventus does have a little bit wider soundstage. I would say the soundstage feels a little more holographic and almost like surround sound, whereas the Ardor feels a little bit narrower in terms of the soundstage. Overall, I think the sound is pretty comparable between the two, and I think it's going to come down to the audience. I think if you're more of a gamer or studio listener or a DJ, you probably prefer the soundstage as well as a little bit more tonal balance from the Aventus. But for just on-the-go music listeners, the Ardor might be a little bit better just because it has a bit more engaging sound that's a little bit more exciting with harder hitting bass and a little bit crisper trebles. Now, just to summarize so far, I would say the Aventus has a better build quality. It feels sturdier, but it does have more kind of play and cheaper feeling buttons. But that being said, I would say the Aventus is also more comfortable to listen to, and it feels more secure on your head. Whereas the Ardor, even though it's a little bit, plasticky, it is lighter, and I do prefer its design language a little bit more than the Aventus. And more importantly, it does have a better ANC for my usage case. So for me, I found myself picking up the Ardor more often when I'm traveling or commuting. I think both have quite a similar level of sound quality. So it's going to come down to what you're going to be using it for ultimately. If you're a gamer or a DJ and you want to balance tuning as well as a little bit better soundstage, I think the Aventus is a good pick for you. But if you're more of a commuter or you just want to listen to music while you're traveling, the Ardor might be better just because it has better ANC. So that's just my brief thoughts. Let me know what you think.